Homer Bailey. Ground ball to third. Frazier gloves. Throw to first. And Homer Bailey, for the second time in his major league career, has tossed a no-hitter. Oh, gosh. Oh, my God. Are you kidding me? Holy moly. He's the second player in major league history to hit 7 home runs in the first 10 games. In the air, and the Reds win. What a dream beginning to the career of Trey Bruce.
All right, welcome into Chatterbox Reds, where we break down the game of the night, and we have some other topics. And luckily for us, on a night where the Reds lose 10-0 to the Tampa Bay Rays, we have some more important things to discuss. Nick, thank the Lord that Hunter Greene's extension was decided that was going to be brought to our attention today, because I'm not sure what else we'd have to talk about outside of a few other things. We have, obviously, our box score recap that you'll do in a minute, the Bally Sports situation, the attendance at Great American Ballpark, and then, obviously, we'll wrap the show up with a little Reds MILB and tomorrow's starters. But, Nick, hopefully you're doing well. I know you were doing a little car shopping when the news broke. Not sure how much you got to see the game, but your overall thoughts on, I guess, I don't know where you want to start first. I'll let you lead it. Do you want to start with the game, or do you just want to run through this Hunter Greene situation?
Let's start with Hunter Greene. Let's dive into that. What a surprise today. Was not expecting that.
That came out of left field.
Kind of gotta wonder, did the Reds maybe have a little bit clearer idea of their TV future, and that prompted a contract? I don't know. It's just maybe some timing there, but no, I love this deal for the Reds. Locking up. I think I said Hunter Greene and Ellie De La Cruz would be my top two. So I'm glad they locked in number one. I got a graphic here I'll pull up just so everyone that maybe didn't see it can see kind of a breakdown of the contract, but the contract through 2027 is just buying out the arbitration years. So he was already under contract then. But like 2027, for example, at $15 million, Julio Urias and Josh Hader are both making $14 million this year in their final year of arbitration. So that's probably about the going rate if Hunter Greene is what we hope Hunter Greene is. And then you're getting those 2 extra years. But Trace, I tell you what, the 2028 and 2029, $16 million and $21 million could be an absolute bargain. You look at guys like Garrett Cole, they signed long contracts with $36 million AAVs. Cole's contract started at 29. And then if you want a guy on a short deal where you're not committed to him for the next, decade after that, a guy like Max Scherzer was $43 million a year. So I love these type of moves where you just buy out a couple more years. You're not extending pitchers, at least right now, into their mid-30s where there's more risk. I don't know. What was your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it. I think it's a situation where, for Greene's perspective, he gets a little security blanket, and I think from the Reds' perspective, if anything, it does set a little bit of a precedent from a PR perspective of that they've finally kind of drew the line in the sand a little bit on where they stand and how they're going to be a little proactive to try to keep some of the bigger names, the big pieces. Listen, they've invested into Hunter Greene since the time they signed him as a high school prospect. I could be wrong off this, but my memory serves me correct. He was at the time was the highest high school signing bonus or signee of anybody that the Reds have ever done before. It was right around like $7 million at the time. And when you invest that much into an asset, you'd probably like to see it, play out. The Reds did this, like it or not, with Homer Bailey. And I think that's still part of the same ownership group where this ownership group, you can say what you want, but they've reached and dug into their pockets a little bit from time to time to keep what they have, what I would call homegrown talent. I'm not going to be. I'm not pessimistic about it. But I'm not like overly like super excited either. Like like I'd like to see maybe one or two more signings before I like throw my hands up and say, "Oh man, the this is a new day." I think of all three of the guys, and now I know Ladolo tonight didn't look great, so it's hard to come in here and rant and rave and say that Ladolo is my guy and that's the guy I would have gone after, and Ashcraft's the guy. Of all of the guys, Nick, I know that you said he's number one for you. On my end, he's close to 3. I don't want to say he is 3 right now, but at the same time, I get it. Like, I'm not naive to it. He's got electric stuff. If you were to say to me who has the highest ceiling, I think that clearly it's Hunter Greene. And you're right. The back end of that contract, the last 2 years especially, could be incredible deals. I mean, the fact that they're both team options, like 28 and 29 are team options. I think 29 has the $2 million buyout. That's basically a big nothing burger in regards to the fact that if you don't think that it's worth that in 2029, I just think that it's a good deal. I wouldn't call it like a steal for the Reds. And the only reason I wouldn't say it's a steal for the Reds is because there's obviously risk involved, Nick. There's risk involved. The guy, if you want to play the pessimistic side, you could say he hasn't been dominating over an extended period of time yet. He, in my opinion, another guy that got signed as a very young prospect or a very young big leaguer was Hernandez for the Mariners back in the day. And Hernandez he was a little more proven perhaps when they did that, but that was also a different deal. So you can't. It's not an apples to apples comparison. So I guess that's the only quote unquote maybe pessimistic side you could say is that Hunter Greene, we're just assuming that his stuff is going to translate down the line. It's not really been like something to where you could say yet that he's been so consistent that you feel great about it no matter what. To be clear, before I get crushed and creamed and saying that I'm not being fun and I'm not a fan, I am openly saying that it's a good deal. Like I'm happy with the deal. I'm thankful for it. But I also am not going to go and run around in the streets with my shirt off until we get either Ashcraft or we get Ladolo or we decide to obviously get one of these young cats that comes in and we take a chance on Ellie De La Cruz or someone like that. I think that'll happen, to be fair. Just because Hunter Greene got signed first doesn't mean they don't have plans for the rest of these guys, Nick. But overall, that's my initial thought. I guess I wish I was excited as everyone else, but I almost just kind of feel like I'm not all the way there yet, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, the first several years of this deal is pretty much just what he's going to get paid either way, which you're projecting out. So it really doesn't change anything for that. I do like that you got 2 extra years. If things go the Reds' way and you look at this team in Daytona and these guys project out, well, now you have Hunter Greene to anchor that team for at least 2 more years at a cost that's not going to sink you. Even if this, let's say Hunter Greene is a bust. Let's worst case scenario this isn't that much money, right? This is Mike Moustakas. You're paying Mike Moustakas money for Hunter Greene. Again, and he's only 23 years old. So I think that's why I liked Greene the most, was just the age. Sure. The age, and then I think he's got the highest upside of all of them. He died, no question. I think he has a lower floor than at least Ladolo. But man, I like that. And what do you think? So you're really in on Ladolo and Ashcraft. I don't know about Ashcraft for a contract extension. Again, it just depends really. What are those guys looking for right now?
Yeah, that's the other side of it. It takes 2 to tango, right? Like I don't know if Ladolo even wants to get extended right now, like a Greene deal was, or I don't know if Ashcraft feels that way. And let's be very clear as well. For this organization to have sustained success, the answer is not going to be, spiraling out and throwing out a bunch of long-term contracts and thinking that we're going to have to keep all these guys in order for us to be competitive. We got to have guys that are in the hopper to where when it does come time to have to make a hard decision on an Ashcraft or a Ladolo, that there's not a huge production loss when you bring in next said guy up, or your fourth and fifth starter slide up a slot. However, you do need some horses with the Kentucky Derby not too far away. Like I said this in one of the other shows, like in order to win the Kentucky Derby, you got to have a thoroughbred. That's how that whole thing works. And the Reds are taking a little bit of a risk with Hunter. It extends his contract from a free agent perspective 2 years. And I don't hate it, because at the end of the day, it's not a huge risk, I guess. It is a little bit of one, but it's not so bad, like you said, Nick, to where I don't think it'll set the franchise back significantly if he's just an average pitcher. Like if he's just an average pitcher, I think that's actually it's an okay contract for both sides.
Yeah.
If he's gets hurt, then that's the part of the side of the deal that I actually think that Greene considered. He thought through that a little bit, because if you're not outside of an unrestricted free agent until, what was it, 26 off the top of my head, that's still a good amount of time, Nick, without getting hurt or significantly injured for a guy that's already had Tommy John once. So I actually understand why both sides wanted to do the deal, and again, doesn't mean I'm not happy about it. I know that my voice doesn't sound like I'm thrilled per se, but I also just watched the Cincinnati Reds get absolutely demolished, so I'm kind of in a little bit of a rock and a hard place right now, trying to figure out where my emotions should be. But overall, I think it's great. There's some people that are excited. I think some people in the chat, we can get into it. Like the whole Ladolo Ashcraft, there's obviously Reds and 4 who I respect a lot. He's talking about whether or not those guys should get extended at all, and it all comes down to what your value is and what you're willing to take risk on. Some guys are willing to bet on themselves. Some guys like security. Hunter Greene, in my opinion, liked a little bit of security. But Ladolo and Ashcraft might say, "No, forget it. I'm going to show you guys how good I am, and when I get to become a free agent after my rookie contract, then maybe they go out and make a bag. I don't know, but I'm not too concerned about it right now. If we're being completely frank, like I'm more concerned about 2 years from now. Are they going to go out and spend money? And I think they will. Are they going to go out and spend money, Nick, when we really need the help in either the back end of the bullpen? Do we need help filling up one more, position? Do we need a left-handed bat with some pop? Are we going to go out and get that? Because I would prefer to pay for those things than to continue ravage our farm system in trying to get said pieces. That's where I want to spend money. To be quite frank.
Yeah, one big difference between Greene and Ladolo is Greene is 23 years old, Ladolo is 25 years old. Greene is still going to hit free agency at 30 years old. So Greene is still going to be at the age Garrett Cole was when he got paid that massive record-setting contract, right? Ladolo, if he signed that same contract, he'd be 32 when he hits free agency. So Ladolo might be a little more willing to bet on himself because he wants to hit free agency at his peak time. And if he hits at 32, that's not his peak time. So they're in a much different situation. It'd be a much different contract structure. And you have to have, like you said, you have to have 2 to tango. Reds and 4 brought up a good point. Ashcraft, Reds got an extra year for him. So I'm not in a rush to extend Graham Ashcraft right now. I know that everyone wants to. He's looked awesome. He's been incredible. But he's had a very small run of this incredible success. He wasn't this high-ranked prospect. So let's not just the Greene contract right now is not a risk. But if you sign 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of these contracts, well, then you have a risk of it all unraveling on you, and a lot of the good momentum you might be building, you could tank it. But who's your next? My next guy is Elly De La Cruz, ahead of Tyler Stevenson, ahead of Jonathan India. I'd want to extend him right now. Is that where you're at? Would you go someone different?
The Reds have to do things unorthodox, in my opinion, in order to beat the system, if you want to call it that. And you can say whatever you want. It's going to be at risk. I'm with you. I think you take a risk on some of these guys on the front end of their rookie deals, to where you're trying to say, you know what, we're going to make you really wealthy, and you don't have to worry about trying to play up to your potential and be an unrestricted free agent when the time comes, and maybe you get a team-friendly contract on a guy that's the best player in the game, or maybe you get a team-friendly contract for a guy that's an all-star. Listen, we can speculate all we want, Nick, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't have fun and speculate from time to time, but unless you know what each side wants, it's relatively worthless to do this, because, I like Spencer Steer. Spencer Steer got hurt. I'd like to go to Spencer Steer right now if I'm Nick Kroll and be like, hey, you have any interest at all in taking a 6-7 year deal, and it's incredibly, I don't want to say team friendly, but you get my point. Like, he's going to make a good amount of money more off of just playing off his rookie deal. But the Reds also know that if he plays up to just an average potential or just an average player, then they're basically getting their value, and if he plays above that, which that's the goal, then you're getting a deal and a steal. So I don't think there's not a good answer to any of this, because we don't know what each side wants, right? Like, you could scream to the moon and say we should have extended Ladolo. Well, Ladolo might have been asking for 2 times the amount of money that Hunter Greene wanted for the same deal. I don't know, because if that's the case, then you don't do that. I don't know. I guess you're asking me who my main guy is. It would be one of these young guys, whether that's McLean or Ellie, or and McLean's gonna have to prove it a little bit more. Like, he's not like an Ellie. And Ellie's when everyone's spewing their guts over the fact of how great this guy is, it gives you a little bit of more of a credence to probably extend an offer that you wouldn't for anyone else. But McLean hasn't even played in the big leagues yet, so, and neither obviously has Ellie. So I don't know if I'm going to be willing to extend guys, but that's kind of what the Braves have done, right? That's...
Yeah, Michael Harris had played like 5 games, it felt like, and they threw him out a $100 million deal. Or $80
if you believe in
deal.
guys, you believe in them. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
You can't miss on them. That's for sure.
My last point on this would just be, hey, look, this is exciting that the Reds are looking at these things, because I didn't believe that they weren't, but a lot of people thought, hey, they're not going to sign anyone. They're not even looking at this kind of things. Well, I think at least some folks hopefully can take a breath of fresh air here. And, okay, hey, the Reds signed a contract extension. There's probably more they're at least looking at. I think that is probably the most exciting thing, and I hope that brings some positivity to even the least optimistic Reds fans.
And the last thing I'll say is this, is if and I don't know if I believe this, but if contracts keep going the way they're going, in 5 years, those deals are going to look like, like laugh out loud money. $15 million might be getting paid to a guy like, I don't know, like an Ian
Kevin
DeVoe
Newman
or something. Yeah, I don't know about Kevin Newman. That's probably not accurate, but like a Jabot or somebody. Like honestly, like a middle reliever is going to get $15 million in 2027. Who knows how the landscape of what sports looks like and how much guys are going to get paid at that time. The way that these RSNs are going, though, it doesn't seem as if that's the way that these contracts should go. We'll probably get into that in just a minute with the Bally Sports situation. But my last point about Hunter and the whole contract is this: if you're excited about it, that's perfectly fine. I don't think you should feel bad about being excited about it. If you're like me, to where it's a little bit of just kind of like you're indifferent, I think that I don't think you should be ridiculed for that either, because to a certain extent, I almost feel like I'm not going to be excited until like 2 or 3 years from now, Nick, and I know what I got. I'd like to see all the people like jumping in the streets when we signed Homer Bailey's. And I'm not, by any means, I'm knocking on wood. I'm not saying that's what this is going to be, but I'm also apprehensive to do those things. I'm not going to come on this show tonight and say this is the best. Get crawled. I'm not going to do that, Nick. But
Get crawled.
in 3 years, I might. I'll play Monday morning quarterback. How about that? So
I think Resident 4 brought up the best point. Is it time to extend Nick Kroll?
I don't know, man.
I don't think Nick's going anywhere.
He might though. He might. I mean, I'll tell you what. If he starts having a little bit of success here, that's the next problem. Say whatever you want.
He's our guy. He's Cincinnati.
Well, Cincinnati's great until there's a lot of money. Telling you right now. Everybody's loyal until they're not. Let's do a little quick box score recap because I really want to get into this Bally thing, and then we can get into the attendance. We got a good show tonight. I got some decent thoughts on all of these things. But go ahead, give us the rundown. I know you have in there. Was it? Did I mess the opener up? Was it only 9-0? I thought it was 10, Nick.
Oh, it was 10. I missed it. Uh-oh.
Okay.
Slacking. I mean, to be fully transparent here, it was I think 8-0 when I got home. So I listened to a little bit on the radio, went car shopping out in the middle of nowhere, and spotty internet on the way back. So in and out. Jeff Brantley was really, really upset about the shift. That's really all I caught. He was very mad about the shift tonight. Not really sure what that was about, but yeah, I mean, look, I guess Nick Ladolo just didn't have it tonight. I mean, I'm not going to make a big deal about that. This is a tough night. I mean, young pitchers are going to have it like that. I think the Rays have a really good lineup. They showed it tonight. They have a lineup that really hits left-handed pitching well. They did this last year. They mix and matches better than anyone. I did go back and looked at the home runs that he allowed. Look at the first two were pretty rough mistake pitches. But that one to Randy at Rays Arena, I don't know if you saw that one, Trace.
Yeah,
that wasn't even a strike. It was like way out of the. So it's just like, yeah, it was like that kind of night, you know, when a guy hits that pitch out of the ballpark.
Yeah, for those that didn't get a chance to see it, don't worry about going back and watch it. Whatever could have gone wrong did go wrong. It felt like, you know, Barry. Listen, I do like Barry as a player. I think he's great for the city of Cincinnati. I got nothing against number 11. You know, I'm not going to comment on just his broadcasting. However, I started feeling sorry a little bit for him because he seemed like he was blaming the grounds crew on some of these lackluster attempts of fielding a ball. I do think, to be fair to Kevin Newman, on one of the plays, there's nothing he could have done. I mean, and there's nothing the grounds crew can do. It is what it is. It's part of baseball. The ball caught the very edge of the lip. It's an incredibly unlucky play, and the ball scooted right underneath Newman's glove. And then you know, Nick Senzel had a do or die play that he just wasn't able to make. So it was just the ball did not bounce Nick Ladolo's way one iota. It is what it is. Rip the tape up, you move on. I seen some people in the chat earlier worried about Ladolo. There ain't nothing to worry about. I know, yeah, maybe his velocity was down a little bit, but you know, when there's 25 people in the stands and you're down 7-0 already, it's hard to get the adrenaline pumping. You just know you're out there basically to try to fall on the sword and make sure the bullpen doesn't you know, have to throw another 7 innings, which we keep bringing that up. I don't. There's not an answer. There's no answer. It's not like you can fix the problem. You got to go out there and eat up some innings. One of these starters have got to find a way, and these starters as a whole, they need to find a way to help this bullpen out a little bit. And for as much as Twitter wants to bang on this bullpen, they've been asked to do a lot. Okay, and I'm not trying to say that they're not completely, you know, at fault either. Like they have their own issues. But if we're going to ask them to go out and pitch six innings every night, 7 innings from time to time, they're going to give up runs, Nick. Like, you know, and they're getting overextended. You know, thankfully Diaz got a chance to throw tonight. Otherwise, it hadn't seemed like he pitched in basically a week. But I don't know what your final thoughts are on the game, but I don't think there's a whole lot to talk about, quite frankly. It's just one of those rip it up, move on, let's go play tomorrow and see what happens.
Yeah, you win a series tomorrow against the Rays. That would be an incredible, you know, 3 games for the Reds if they could win the series. Yeah, Alexis Diaz looked great, struck out the side. So that was definitely a positive. And yeah, I mean, I think it makes what Graham Ashcraft has done early in the season all the more impressive with how many other short outings there have been. Every start he's been going out 6-7 innings. He's really been, I guess, the savior for the bullpen. But yeah, I mean, you had Sunday and Monday. I mean, the bullpen had to throw 12 innings. And I mean, some of that was just, Greene got hurt. Not much you can do about that. But yeah, I mean, they're definitely going to have to get some longer outings the next 2 days. We'll get to that in a second. You got two pitchers that haven't pitched in the big leagues this year. So neither one of those guys at AAA necessarily went very deep into their starts. So we'll see. I mean, the Reds might have to kind of just ship guys back and forth in the bullpen just to kind of hopefully get through the stretch and get to a couple off days.
Yeah. Yeah, let's jump into the Bally thing really quickly. And I think that also kind of ties into the attendance. I had a point that I was trying to reiterate earlier in the day that I think is probably too far-fetched to try to accomplish. But I think that there needs to be a little bit of like, from a Reds ownership perspective, sometimes when things are going so poorly from a specific situation, it can free you up a little bit. Like, I don't know how many times many of us have obviously been through struggles in life, and you feel like at the time when you're going through it that it's not the end of the world per se, but you're never going to be able to get through it. It just seems like it's just a huge rut. It's just a massive problem, and then you look back, and obviously people write songs that say thank God for unanswered prayers, and you realize that at the time you thought it was the most important thing. But 5-10 years later, you realize like that was a blessing in disguise, that it led to something else. I think that the opportunity right now for Major League Baseball, when it comes to this whole RSN situation, just falling apart, ripping at the seams, not working, it was a bad business model from the start for the game of baseball. And I'm going to try not to hog the airwaves here because I'd like for this to go back and forth, Nick, but I'm really passionate about this subject because at the end of the day, a product that's in and of itself is only as good as it's marketed. You could have the best anything, you name it. The best car, the best shoes, the best pair of pants, the best jacket. I don't care what it is. If no one knows about it, or very, very minimal amount of people know about it, then it's irrelevant when it comes to a growth and sustainability. It means next to nothing. And my point to this whole thing is, go out tomorrow and buy you a bottle of Prime, whatever they call it, sports drink. I want you to take one sip of it. You don't need to drink the whole thing. Take one sip of it and ask yourself, why in the world is this disgusting drink the most fastest, largest, quickest growing sports drink on the face of the planet right now? And you're going to quickly realize that the only reason that it's growing that fast is because all the kids want to have it, and Logan Paul and Jake Paul and that whole clan of people, whether you like them or you hate them, they know how to market things, and it's skyrocketing. So Major League Baseball's got to find a way to reconnect themselves with a huge audience of people and get them to fall in love or enjoy watching the game again. It's not, you don't have to try to recreate all these rules, right? We're at this point now assuming, Nick, that every single person is trying to figure out a way in which we want to watch baseball a different way to love it again. I think we can't watch it, period. It's hard for me as someone who's a relatively technologically advanced person that doesn't have cable. I have to go through hoops, quite frankly. I mean, I'm out here trying to use a VPN every night, figuring out which server I got to get on to be able to manipulate the system to watch these games. At the end of the day, the Reds and or Major League Baseball should try this one specific experiment. And I know people are going to laugh at me, but I'm being dead serious when I say it. I think they should go all in on the fact they're not going to get paid regardless from Bally or these RSNs. There's no money there anyways. So try something that you would never try before because you got the opportunity to do it. That is, put the games free on YouTube. Free. Maybe you do it for a week. Maybe you do it for 2 weeks. I'm not saying you have to do it. You have to commit yourself to doing that all year long. And for the people that say, Nick, like, well, if you make it free at first, it's hard to take it back. No, it's not. No, it's not. I mean, it's not hard at all. You know what you do? You say, well, it's not free anymore. That's how easy it is. You fix that problem. But I think that there's an opportunity, Nick, where you can get people that are just on YouTube that can't afford to theoretically even follow like all the sports. They're dying just to see whatever they can see for free. Every single one of those people would eventually become, in my opinion, Reds fans. It's the same thing that happened in Notre Dame football back in the day because no one could watch any TV. They could not watch any college football except for Notre Dame on TV. And it's the same with the Atlanta Braves on Turner Sports. Where did those, and the Chicago Cubs on WGN, where did those fan bases become so big at, and why? And the only answer I can come to, Nick, is that it was accessible, easily accessible.
Yeah, I love that idea. I don't know if there's anything MLB, if that's more of an MLB thing than the Reds, like MLB would even allow something like that. Just to kind of catch people up who may not know where everything's at. And I've done my best to keep track of this story, but it has been a wild story that there's just so much information about that's really hard to dig through. But Bally missed their payment to the Reds. They're now on a 15-day grace period. MLB could take over production on May 6th if no payment is made. And MLB has a handshake agreement with DirecTV and Spectrum. So I would love for, obviously they're going to want to keep the games on DirecTV and Spectrum. Why wouldn't you? So I would love if they do that. And then maybe in addition to that, they start, even if it's maybe YouTube would be great. I love that idea. Even if it's not YouTube, I think it'd be awesome if they started their streaming service free this year. It's in the middle of the year. You're saying, hey, we know it's been really hard to find where the Reds have been playing, and it's kind of been up and down, and there's been so much information. We're going to give you free games for the rest of the year, even if it's just MLB TV, and people have to download that app. People can download that app. And they do that for the rest of the year. And then next year they have a standalone plan, which it sounds like that's what's going to happen. And that will be huge in itself. But yeah, I love the idea of free. Why not try something like that? See if you can get some people hooked on it.
Yeah, I to be clear, I'm looking at it from the standpoint that I'm trying to make the Reds brand, if you want to call it that, as far and wide as I possibly can. The amount of people that are on YouTube is so far and above and beyond the amount of people that are on any other platform in the entire world. There will be people in other countries that are going to watch the Cincinnati Reds every night because they can. I'm talking about countries, Nick, that dwarf us in size. Like India. I mean, I look it up on the fly, but I'm just saying, if you had the whole entire country of India rooting for your franchise, Nick, that might sound stupid, but you could do it. You could do it. Like, it's not unfathomable. And I know that sounds absurd. And like, you're being absurd. You're like, that's so idiotic of you. But I'm just telling you that if it was accessible to countries that didn't have as great of entertainment as we have, we as the United States take everything for granted to the umpteenth degree. We just assume that these other countries, they could care less about baseball. Really? I mean, have you ever put the product directly in front of them for free and just let them enjoy it? I bet you haven't. I mean, India population 1.4 billion, Nick. 1.4 billion. United States population 331 million, Nick. That's my point. Now, you could make an argument to me that, well, the Indian market share isn't going to be as strong as an American market share. It's not worth the same amount of money. That's fine. That is perfectly fine. But you know what else will grow? The game of baseball. Do we not care about that? You know what else would grow? Is probably merch sales. There's a whole slew of other things that come with this thing outside of just how much money can I get from my RSN provider because I just need to make a payment. Like I guess my point is we're worried about pennies laying on the ground over here on the left, And I think there's a mountain of cash over here on the right, and we're just blowing it to the curb because it's not easy to get, or it's unorthodox. Fortnite, I've said it from time to time, Fortnite proved that there is a market for just making things accessible and free and asking people to pay for said things. Could you imagine, close your eyes a minute, YouTube has this chat going. Obviously, there needs to be a moderation going, Nick. I know that. You can't have people in the chat saying bad things. But do you not think that the super chats and the amount of emoji things that you would be able to buy from the chat's perspective, you get all of these people that could care less about baseball, but they find themselves being able to watch this every night and they become part of a community? I'm telling you, call me crazy, but as soon as it happens, the first team that does it, then you've already lost. It only matters if you do it if you're first. If you're not first, to quote Ricky Bobby, you're last.
Well, and the chat's all over it. I mean, Jonathan India would be the face of baseball in India. I mean, simple.
Yeah. I mean, the
simple
story
math.
writes itself. It writes itself. The writing's on the wall. I'm just saying. Do you realize how many? India has 5 times the population that we have. We're not even getting into the other countries.
I love it. Think how many people just switch right over to Chatterbox Reds. Maybe YouTube will autoplay to Chatterbox Reds when the game ends. I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Let's go.
And listen, I know people think that, like, all, Chatterbox Sports, they really think they could do the Reds games. Listen, we're not naive. We understand that that's an absurd claim to make. We like having fun with it, obviously, but I again, it's not that much money. Maybe I'm being ridiculous, but I'm telling you, Nick, maybe I'm being stupid. Can you let me know? I don't know if you know something here. How much money are they supposed to get from Bally? Who's basically just a fancy middleman, by the way. Just a fancy middleman.
So the Reds are like the only team that didn't have the actual dollars out, but I think what I saw was it was a $60 million deal per year. Does that sound right?
That sounds about right. So let's just say that the Reds get $55 or $60 million per year, right? Steve's saying $40 million in the chat. I don't care.
We're in a ballpark.
Between getting YouTube ad revenue that you probably, I'm just going to throw it out there, you probably could make a phone call to YouTube and get a stock deal to where, you get. So you have that. You have your in-game broadcast advertising partners that are local to the city of Cincinnati. All right. And then on top of that, if you're telling me right now over the course of it wouldn't be 162, but 80 some odd games, right? That the super chats, if the broadcasters on the game didn't have a spot in the game where they acknowledged $250 plus super chats, $500 super chats, maybe it's $1,000 super chats, you're crazy. People are egotistic. You don't think there's rich people? Richard from Indian Hill would be dropping $2,500, $5,000 a game, Nick, on super chats. Just to hear
Sir Boy be dropping $1,000 a week.
I know I'm laughing. I know I'm making fun of it. I know I'm being a little bit of a facetious about this, a little bit, but I'm actually being dead serious. That's the way I'm coping with this. I'm getting frustrated because everyone. I almost feel like I know people are like they're on board with this, but I just cannot believe that this isn't even thought of as an option. And by the way, here's my thought. Let me ask you something. If you own a building, right, and that building gets blown up to pieces, does it matter if you own the building anymore or not? At one time, that building might have been worth $40 million a year. So, yeah, I see people in the chat telling me right now that the Reds own a part of Bally. It doesn't matter. They made a bad business deal. They oversold. They jumped the shark. Whatever term you like to use, Nick, you can use it. But here's the dead ass truth about this, okay? The RSNs put their foot down, and they thought that they had all the leverage. They went to all these streaming networks like YouTube TVs of the world and all those places and said, nope, if you're not going to pay us, YouTube TV, this much money, you ain't getting our product. Forget it. Good luck getting customers, big boy. Good luck, YouTube TV. Ha ha. No one's going to buy your package because you don't have the Cincinnati Reds. And you know what happened? Everybody was like, oh, man, I love YouTube TV. You know what? I'm just not going to watch the Reds anymore. Can't do it. Not doing it. And all of a sudden, the RSN's looking at it like, well, we're supposed to have this many people watching the games for our advertisers. Our advertisers are asking us and telling us, we're not going to pay you that much money because you're not getting that much viewership. And then all the cable packages are looking around and they're going, wait a minute. No one's paying for DirecTV anymore, which besides Nick Kirby, no one's paying for Spectrum. And then all of a sudden now they look up and they realize they're Blockbuster. They're Sears. And it soon, you can correct, again, I'm not trying to go crazy. People are going to tell me I need to stop drinking coffee. I'm telling you guys, Major League Baseball is on the path to be Blockbuster. It's on the path to be Sears. You can say I'm wrong, but go look at the attendance. Next on the list. That's a professional transition, by the way. I'm just telling you that the truth of the matter is this game is marketed about as well as the cookies that they try to sell to kids when they do fundraisers. The only people that know who make those cookies are just those select kids. No one else in the world knows who they are. Right now, that's Major League Baseball. Only the select few people that care about it are the only ones that even know that there's games on every night. Now, say I'm crazy, but I think if I was Major League Baseball, I'd say, you know what? This is a perfect opportunity. We're putting this stuff as free and far and as wide as I can, and we're going to lose a bunch of money at the beginning. But you know what's going to happen is we're going to grow our game, which is actually the way this whole thing started to make money in the first place. Anyways, I digress. Nick, your final thoughts on the Bally situation, and then let's get into attendance.
Well, the only thing I would add, it actually is good for the Reds that they do own a part share, because that is the reason they're not going to bankruptcy court like the other teams. That because they own part of a share, that actually gets them out of going to bankruptcy. So it might get the Reds the rights to the team or get it back to Major League Baseball faster because of that. So I don't know. You have any thoughts on attendance? It doesn't bother me. I don't really. Does it matter if there's 7,000 or 12,000 people at the ballpark on a Tuesday in April? Is that really gonna, other than have a nice, cool story? Like, it doesn't change anything about where the Reds are and what they're trying to do and what they're trying to accomplish. Is it anything more than just a talking point? Like,
I think if anything, it should shed a little bit of the light that the fact that the Major League Baseball system at some point is severely broken and somebody's going to have to fix it. I feel sorry for the fact that Rob Manfred, to a small extent, he takes a lot of heat, and he should, on the way that he has appeared sometimes and the way that he acts. You know, I think that the Houston Astros situation a few years back, he botched that completely. However, he's done some things that has helped this game, so I give him some credit from that. I'll just say it. Major League Baseball has held on to the rituals and the nostalgia of the game and the statistical nature of the game for so long that they've not done a good job, in my opinion, on trying to create a sense of urgency within the game, which is what this culture, like it or not, enjoys. And I'm not just calling out one generation, Nick. It's all of us. This is not just the 18 to 25-year-olds that are like this anymore, right? If my webpage, and I'm just telling you the truth, if my webpage doesn't load in like 3 or 4 seconds, Nick, I become impatient. You become impatient. The whole entire chat would become impatient. I used to wait 3.5, 4 minutes for my AIM to load up, Nick. Like there used to be a sense of patience in the game of baseball. is a long form game. You play 162 games, and the truth is there's not a sense of urgency. The reason that the NFL and college football, in my opinion, it's not because of how long the games are. It's not because the quote-unquote game is better. Like, it's not, and you could argue that it's more entertaining or not. I don't think it's more entertaining, Nick. I just think that it matters so much every time they step on the field. So, to your point, Nick, on a 18th of April, when the temperature's 45 degrees, who's going to take their family down there to watch the game when it doesn't really matter? Is that being too harsh? It's there's not a. I don't know how they fix it. I have some ideas, but I'm just saying, Nick, the attendance problem is never going to change until there's some sense of urgency in the game of baseball. It's just not going to happen. Not for small market teams.
Yeah, I think they could put more of an emphasis on, like the fan experience. We had talked about, bigger bars and areas where, people could just congregate and hang out, but that's probably only going to really impact games on the weekends, right?
Yep.
It's not really going to do much on the week. I don't know if weekday attendance really is all that big of an indicator to how well the product is doing or not. With all that's going into, the experience of just watching a game at home is just so good if you're able to watch it. It's easier to keep track of a game. We went to those games. We're trying to recap the game. We're like, I don't even know if I remember everything that happened. It's so much more difficult to follow along. And with I just wonder too, a lot of the sports betting, how that's going to impact the game in the future, because we see it like in college football. You have games on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night on ESPN, Maction, the Sun Belt. I don't know who the other conferences are.
Well, and why
there's like five people at these games, but they're on ESPN. Because
you're right,
people are betting on them.
And why would the MAC sign up? Why would the MAC want to play their games on Tuesdays and Wednesdays?
Money.
And why is there money involved?
Because people are interested.
People are watching.
Yeah.
That's the only time the MAC could ever get eyeballs on their product. So you know what? They make it an executive decision to make a change. And that's all I'm asking for the Reds to do. That's all I'm asking for Major League Baseball to do. Find a way to get your product in front of people. I don't care how you do it, but quit making the excuse that you have to oblige by all of these. And I know you have to pay the bills, but we're talking about billionaires here. And I know that I'm talking about other people's money, but let's not sit here and act like Major League Baseball is going to go bankrupt if they decide for a year to trial the fact that if they just made their game for free, that they couldn't find a way to do it. They could. And let's not act like you can't make money when you make things for free. Fortnite figured out a way to do that too. I'm gonna look up the attendance for a high school basketball game back in the day, and I'm gonna bring you a point. There's more entertainment options. That's part of the attendance problem too. There's just more things to do, Nick. You know, back in the day, quite frankly, let's be honest, there just wasn't a whole lot of, nothing against Pong, but that's not Call of Duty. That's the truth.
Wait. And back then, the TV viewing experience wasn't very good. Go watch a game on YouTube from 1982. Like, it's not great quality. There's no scoreboard. Like, it was probably pretty hard to follow along. Every time I watch one of those games, I'm like, it's hard to follow along. While you're looking that up, I did want to get to one question, because Sir Boy had asked me, this on Twitter, and then brought it up today as well. My thoughts on the opener, our thoughts on the opener. I think that I have no problem with the Reds trying that out, especially with maybe some of their, if they're going to keep running like guys like Sessa out there. I think it would be a great option with Sessa. Maybe even, if Connor Overton or someone else like that gets some more starts this year, bring in a guy that can give you one quality inning, like maybe Alexis Diaz. That might sound crazy, but Alexis Diaz, you had to pitch him tonight, right? And because he hadn't pitched in a while, and there just wasn't an opportunity, because there's been so many blowout games lately, which is just wild in itself, how we had all these one-run games, and we've had like 4 straight complete blowouts, just how the baseball season, the ebbs and flows are. But you knew you needed Alexis Diaz to pitch. You could have had him open tonight. Now, obviously not with Nick Ladolo, but let's just say that tonight was Luis Cessa's start. You can have Alexis Diaz open this game. You hope, hey, we got one shutout inning. We're getting off to a good start. And I think the numbers would tell you, teams that lead after the first inning, their chances of winning the game are so much higher. So maybe you get yourself off to a good start. So I love creative stuff like that. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't mind that. I as you could tell in the show, I'm open to trying new things and seeing how they go. I'm not going to sit here and say you can't give it a shot. I've said the only pushback I have on that is at some point you have to get outs regardless. It's not like you can stall to win a baseball game, as we all know. You got to earn outs. So whether you're getting those outs at the end of the game or whether that bullpen's getting outs at the beginning of the game, I don't know. You still got to get outs. So I don't know if there's one way that you could say that. But to run back to my point here. There's a high school basketball game that had 13,694 people at it in 1956. That's not obviously like that crazy long ago, but that's my point. Is in 1956, like what entertainment options did you have on a Friday night? And like it or not, that's where professional sports are at. They're competing with just a significant amount of different things that you could possibly be doing. And to your point, Nick, you could watch a game on your phone from your couch, put your phone down at whatever time the game ended tonight, which was at 9:15, and be in bed by 9:20. So I'm not. I don't think it's that big of a deal per se, Nick. But here's the thing I will tell you: you do have a problem if you can't sell tickets and the people that put your games on TV are going out of business. You got a bad product. Fix it.
Sounds like a dangerous combination there.
Yeah. Explain that one to me, crowd. No one's come to the games, and the people that got all of our games on television, they can't find a way to make any money. So that's here nor there. I do love how all these Major League Baseball franchises got swindled into taking some stock options into a company that was going to go belly up regardless. Like, hey, I got some swap land down in Florida. Oh, you don't like it? I'll throw in an extra acre. That's not good enough. 2 acres. And Phil and Bob are like, deal. 2 acres. Did you see that, guys? Let's go get a steak from Ruby's tonight, baby. We fleeced them. We got 2.5 acres of swampland instead of just 1. All right. Can't believe it.
Reds MILB?
Let's do some Reds MILB.
Let's do it.
And let's get the chat popping, by the way. Let's get some questions in the chat. We'll end the show on some chat questions, and we'll do some Reds MILB. Then we'll go through tomorrow's starter. So run us through. I know there's some good news on the way, Nick. I seen something in Reds MILB that was promising. I'm sure you'll get to it, but go ahead. Run us through the league.
Now I'm worried I missed it, but
if you missed it, I'll let you know.
All right, cool deal. So we actually got all final scores because we've been yapping long enough, so that's exciting. Louisville 5-4 winners over Charlotte. Maybe the biggest positive of the night, Brandon Williamson, 6 shutout innings, only allowed 3 hits, did walk 3, only struck out 2, but a positive start for Brandon Williamson. Could Brandon Williamson being skipped? But Levi Stout getting the start tomorrow, maybe be a little bit of motivation. I don't know. Speaking of guys that maybe need motivation, Will Benson 0 for 4 with 1 strikeout. He has started 0 for 12 with the Louisville Bats, so that's not the most encouraging thing. Matt McLean, he walked twice tonight, and Michael Ciani homered. He actually had a grand slam, and Ciani needed it. Ciani had been really scuffling, guy that got to get a cup of coffee at the end of last season on the big league roster. Double-A, Chattanooga lost 9-5 to the Tennessee Smokies. Christian Roa, the second-round pick from 2020, struggled again. 4 2/3 inning, allowed 4 runs, walked 3, did strike out 7. Noelvi Marte had really been playing well, 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts tonight. Dayton, 5-0 winners over Western Michigan. Edwin Arroyo returned. He was 1 for 4 with a walk, and Austin Hendrick also had 2 hits. And then our Daytona Tortugas, Trace, started out 5-0. They are now 5-5. They lost 7-5 to Bradenton. But some good stuff. Hector Rodriguez hit another home run. He already has 3 home runs. Sal Stewart 1 for 4, and then Cam Collier 1 for 3 with a walk. Did I get to what you were thinking about?
Yeah, you hit on it right off the rip. I thought Williamson threw really, really well. Looked like he had a good stat line. I wanted to just say, as much as we get excited about Ellie, baseball is such a fickle thing. For those that don't know, Ellie, there was a chance to where the Reds wouldn't have signed Ellie just based off the fact that they didn't have a spot available in their I don't know what do they call it, the Dominican League, or like their international player pool,
international cap space.
Yeah, they it wasn't even the cap space of the issue, because they only signed him for like $30,000. It was something hilariously cheap. I also know that Ellie wasn't even a guy they went down there to look at, and the only reason they seen Ellie was because he kind of got thrown into the drills with the other guy they went down there to look at, and they were like, well, we might like this Ellie guy. I'll have to find that article. I'll put it in the chat the next time we get together, but it's an incredible story just about how crazy life can be in regards to the fact that Ellie now is our saving grace, as we seem to try to make him out to be. Let's jump into the questions here really quickly, Nick, before we get into tomorrow's starters. Brian asks, does Stroud go down back down Thursday for Weaver? That's what it seems like.
Yeah. He was already told it's just a one-time start. What's your thoughts on that? I kind of like that for a pitcher like Levi Stout, where you had a situation where it made sense to push the rest of the starters back. Sessa could obviously use an extra day. Greene, was hit on the leg, could use an extra day. I kind of like giving this guy, hey, let's give him a taste of the big leagues. Let's not put a ton of pressure on him. He knows it's a one-time thing. He's a guy that's older. I think he's 25 years old. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
We're going to have to make sure you stop calling guys old that are 25, first of all. That's not old.
Baseball prospect old. Prospect old.
Hey. I don't hate it. I do get what you're saying. The sentiment of the fact of the matter is he should go out there and probably be a little bit looser than he would be if he felt like he was in a Sessa position where, say what you want, but Luis Sessa had some pressure on him. He came back from the World Baseball Classic, tried to prove the fact that he could be a starter, then he got a chance, and then there's no question in my mind that he probably pressed to try to impress people as much as he possibly could, and that obviously backfired a little bit, but hopefully he comes out, he throws well, and he has confidence the next time he comes up. And I think, as I said before, I think the mental makeup of guys is either there or it's not. And we can try to baby people as much as we want. We can try to protect them as much as we want. But the truth of the matter is that you either got a mental makeup or you don't. And right now, we got to find out if Will Benson has a mental makeup too. He can either spiral completely out of control right here, or he can pick up a Brian Cain book or read Heads Up Baseball, take a deep breath, and relax and realize that it's just a game, and his life is going to move on no matter what. And as stupid as that sounds, that's the best thing that could happen for a guy like Will Benson, and I think that's the same thing that can happen for Levi. No matter what happens, if you have a pretty good mental makeup, then I don't think it matters, Nick. I'm not really worried about what guys do when they come up and if you're bringing them up too soon, if that makes any somewhat logical sense. So to answer your question, I don't know if it matters. I think it may be. If it's there, it's like that much or something. He's going to be nervous regardless.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Maybe it would calm his nerves a little bit. That this is, hey, I'm coming up, I'm going right back down. I'm not pitching necessarily for my big league life.
Yeah, in the back of his mind, Nick, he's thinking that if he goes out and he dominates and he shoves, he's like, they might reconsider.
They'll get rid of Sessa.
You're going to get to this question that you like in the chat, but tell me I'm wrong when I tell you right now, if he goes out there tomorrow and throws 8 shutout innings, that there isn't a chance they're like, he might, we're going to try him again.
If he goes out there's 8 shutout innings.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
you know what? That kid Levi is laying his head down tonight, Nick, and I can promise you, as a competitor, he's thinking what you just said.
That would be pretty incredible because his last start at Louisville, 2 2/3 innings pitched, 4 earned runs, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts, 2 home runs.
You ever heard of the phrase gamer, Nick?
Yeah.
He might be a gamer. The lights get bright, he gets better. All right. What's the question in the chat that you like the most?
This is a good question from Hoosier. When do you guys honestly believe this team will be in a window of contention? Give me some hope. I'm tired of dreaming. Hoosier's tired of dreaming. I mean, I think it just goes back to the Reds farm system is the best it's been since Jay Bruce and Joey Votto were in the farm system. But it's not just like the cupboard's bare at the major league level. There is some real talent here. There is a lot of players here that we've seen. There's a good start to a rotation with Greene, Ladolo, and Ashcraft, Spencer Steer, Jonathan India, Tyler Stevenson, even TJ Friedel, Jake Fraley. Some of these guys have looked really good, and you're going to be adding talent to that, but there's talent behind the talent, behind the talent, behind the talent. And I think that's what gives me the hope. I hope there is no window. I hope it's just a nice long 10-year run where the Reds are competitive and they're in races year after year after year. I'm tired of playing for a 2 or 3 year window that sometimes only ends up being 1 year. I want there to be a continued long stretch of good baseball.
I think to answer your question, who's your daddy, it is 2 years from now. I hate to say that, but
I think a lot of it just depends how guys.
Of course, it all depends, Nick.
Look,
I mean, if Ellie De La Cruz sucks, if Matt McLean sucks, if Novel Marte sucks, if Ashcraft gets hurt, if Ladolo gets hurt, and Hunter Greene sucks, guess what? We're gonna suck. If they're all great, we might be great. I mean, of course, it has a little bit to do with how well they play. I'm just saying that from a realistic perspective, at the end of this year, I think we can start to narrow down guys that should get meaningful playing time going into the following year. And then that next year is when we grow up a little bit. Like, I would hope next year we're actually competitive and we're considering making the playoffs past the All-Star break.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it right now. Over under 2024 wins. I'm going to say they're over 500.
Next year, obviously, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, next year. I'm going to say it right now. On April 18th, 2023, the 2024 Reds will be above 500.
Their over-under win total next year will be 77.
I'm going to smash that.
Okay.
I'm going to steal money from Fred.
I listen. Clip it up, chat. I think it's 77. 77 wins is the over-under for next year. And that's good. It's not bad. That means if they go over, they could possibly make the playoffs. All right. Here's what we're going to do. So before you go into tomorrow's starters, Nick, we're going to have some fun in the chat like we always do. You're going to cut this small little segment out. I mean, I'm going to keep making you edit these videos, and you're going to hate my guts for it. But I did come across something yesterday that I got a really important poll question. Maybe you'll keep it. Maybe you'll keep it in there. I don't know. Maybe you'll keep it into the podcast for the morning. All right, you ready for it?
I'm ready.
Okay. I'm going to put it in the poll question of the day. Got 34 people in here. Would you rather everyone be naked all the time or clothed all the time? Now that is a question of the day. Think about it now. You got to think hard on this one. This isn't easy. This is not an easy answer.
Yeah, I'm clipping this out.
Poll question of the day. Here it comes.
You don't need people's mornings starting off this way. Driving to their car on the way to work. What the hell? All right, where are we at on the YouTube so I can make myself a note? I'm not searching for this. 10605. All right.
There you go. All right, we'll see.
I don't even know how I want to vote on this. I feel like I need 24 hours.
Chad will figure that out. Let's see how this goes. We got about I'll give it every bit of 60 seconds before we figure out where we're at. There's pros and cons to both. Steve brings up a very valid point, which is clothed all the time can't work. It is bad. That is actually a bad thing for our continuation of a human species.
I will not make a Trevor Bauer comment here.
You sure? Yeah. Fair. By the way, I did finish season 2 of Ted Lasso.
Oh.
I am going to try to finish the rest of the season by the end of this week. And then I'll be all caught up. Guess I can't really do spoilers here because I don't want to be a spoiling kind of guy, but it's an okay show. Not bad.
Okay?
That's all I got for you. Okay.
Okay? It's like saying Graham Ashcraft's start to the season has been okay.
It's like saying Hunter Greene's start of the season has been okay. That's what I think it is.
Disgusted.
Just saying. Just saying. All right. Nick, let's do this. We got a game tomorrow, as we always do. It seems like in Major League Baseball, they play 162 of them. We get to wipe the slate clean. Got a brand new game tomorrow. Run us through tomorrow's starters. And unfortunately, I don't get to dunk a basketball tonight.
Yeah, like we said, Levi Stout, Reds number 14 ranked prospect. He was part of the Luis Castillo return. This is just supposed to be a spot start, nothing more, nothing less. Against Drew Rasmussen. He was acquired in the Willy Adames trade from the Brewers. He was a reliever for them. He's off to an incredible start. So this will be a tough one for the Reds, but hey, if they could find a way to win a series against the Rays, that would be really nice. And then looking at the rest of the week, because I know we had some people ask about that, Luke Weaver is going to start Thursday in Pittsburgh. Yours truly will be in attendance for that, so I will be there for the Luke Weaver Reds debut, Trace. I don't even know what's going on in the chat.
Don't worry about it. I love it. This is fantastic.
And then your boy Luis Sessa will be back on the hill on Friday night. Or no, Graham Ashcraft Friday. Luis Sessa will be back on Saturday.
Are we sure?
They've just moved everyone back. That's what I read. That's what I read, Trace.
Okay. Well, I hope Luis Sessa figures it out. I hope he does. If he doesn't, then like I said before, there's a spot for him in the special place where they keep guys ready to go until you need them, and they open the door when it's their time to pitch, and he's done pretty decent out there from time to time, and I'd like to make sure that it stays that way before we just ruin all of his confidence trying to make him something he's not. Can't fit a square peg in a circle hole, Can't do it. It's been proven that he can't do it. I don't think for one iota that he has any chance of having any long-term sustained success for this baseball team doing said thing, starting pitching. So I know that can consider me as a hater. I know you guys think that I'm a Sessa guy that doesn't think that he can be valuable. I think he can be valuable, just has to be put in the right position to win. That's all. It might just be a mental block at this point. He might care so much about the fact that he wants to be a starter, Nick, that it'll never work because he's always trying to prove that he can do it when in reality it'll never be that way. So that's my thoughts. And in regards to things that are going on at Chatterbox Sports, I want to remind you, as always, that tomorrow, if you want to listen to Tom Brenneman, he will be doing his show called Off the Bench. It's Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. till noon. And, again, like a broken record, our numbers are continuing to stay steady. They're growing from time to time. Chatterbox Reds. Download it, rate it, review it. And as always, it's on there daily because Nick Kirby cares a lot about it, and he does an unbelievable job editing it every single morning for you. And when you wake up, it's a good start to your day. Today, stunk outside of the Hunter Greene Extension. But you know what? You're going to go to sleep. You're going to wake up. And tomorrow, the Reds play baseball again, and we're going to watch them win and win a series against the Tampa Bay Rays. All right? Much love to you, chat. And as always, go Reds.